No, okay. Anyway, let's get some Townstar questions, guys. What do you guys got?
Well,
Do you,
let's introduce Adam Jennings really quick. So
oh
Adam
yeah, let's
Jennings
do that.
is basically like lead developer on the Townstar game itself on the front end, and has written probably three-quarters of the code or more for Townstar. Hi, Adam.
Hey guys. Yeah, I think that's probably fair to say. I've been working on the project for quite a while. Dating back to when it was originally project was all in Unity. We restarted the whole thing to be able to launch it as an in-browser game to launch straight from the Gala Games app. And yeah, been there since we started the project on in Play Canvas, the current engine that we're using, to now.
Yep,
Uh,
and Adam Jennings is the reason he started before me. Is the reason that I'm known as Price.
that's correct. I had first claims to the
First
Adam name.
dibs. And to everyone watching who works at a big company, usually your name is kind of generated based on whatever it is. But when you're at a small company and you're just starting, you can kind of pick whatever email you want at the company. And so Mr. Jennings swooped up the Adam, and when Price came along, he couldn't take it.
Although now that I'm his boss, maybe I could make it happen.
He doesn't have to give it up, but
I think Price asked me for it once. We had a
So I just want to say that's a really nice name you've got there. It'd be a shame if something would have happened to it.
Something happened to it.
we'd have to figure out some kind of blockchain or coding based challenge that we would have to put our email
Ooh.
addresses on the line for.
Game on.
Ooh, this
what's
is
the
good.
can you put the new link, Mr. Brink, at me?
And yeah, where you want it in all of the slacks?
Yeah,
All of
Brink
the
link.
slacks.
I like to see
Okay.
the questions that are flying by and grab a couple if
Yeah, for sure. There is the new one. Okay, so I want to throw a question at you right now because I'm reasonably sure Mr. Mustard 18 will not rest until we answer this question. 20% of the last 10 messages, which means two of them, have been this question. Can you talk a bit about the Salty Bot and the Elf Bot?
in what in what particular way? Like the elf bot is there, it's live, it functions. I think it's probably made the cake game, probably the clear winner. It's a tuning. It's always fun in the game when there's like what is the thing to create to win. There's always this kind of battle between blue, steel, and cake, and um, you know I think anytime we buff either one of those games, the balance of power can shift, and I rely on the community to tell me what the best way is. For a while there, it was actually wood. I think wood was tuned in such a way that growing wood in bulk actually beat and surpassed blue, steel, and cake as the ultimate thing to grow. Um, just kind of fun. So, the elf bot is just a cute little guy. He runs around. There's not too many of them, but he should do all things sugar unless we have not tuned it properly. He will handle sugar cane as well as sugar and be delivering it to not just to storage, but I believe he will also look at crafting units and kind of help them assemble sugar for crafting buildings and assemble them for help them assemble sugar related things. Salty Bot's going to be essentially the same, the counterpart to the elf bot. He'll be handle brine and salty things.
Like
So he'll
Doritos?
handle me.
Ooh.
Salty
Yeah,
Price.
Grizzly from B2B says
Uniforms.
Yeah, says the uniforms. Now they just completely wrecked shop in the 48-hour competition, if I remember correctly. From
So
that list you
the
sent over,
answer
Price.
is likely uniforms.
Yeah, yeah. Given that they just did that, that is what we're gonna go with probably. And so, congratulations, by the way, guys, for winning that. That's phenomenal, and hopefully you can enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Do you know what BTB stands for, Jason?
I have no idea.
It's Bitbender. My understanding is it's Bitbender.
Is it really?
Yeah,
Are you? Are
if
you?
I asked one time many moons ago.
Wow.
Someone in BTB in Discord, tell me I'm wrong.
So you would be the official unofficial mascot.
Oh,
I
wool
I
yarns.
wool yarns. Okay. 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 So yeah, no. If
Um,
that's the truth, I would be extremely honored. Um.
one of the things about Townstar, guys, actually this is kind of game development. This is a game development reality. I don't know anyone who is a game developer who is actually the best at the game, quote unquote. And you should be, right? You know all the ins and outs, and you know how it's tuned. But that's not really the case, especially not with what we develop here. We try to develop more sandbox style games that give you guys a lot more control and a less prescribed kind of content and way that you're supposed to approach things. So, we make tuning changes, we add new content, and then I thoroughly enjoy the battle I see on Discord about, oh my God, this is absolutely the way to win. There's no way to win otherwise. The only way to win is this. And then it'll be a week later that someone else will figure out something new, a better way, a better thing to do, or a
It's
better way to
amazing.
kind of. It's really cool and exciting. There's so many. It's kind of the inspiration for Townstar was actually chess, um, meaning uh, it it's just kind of setting the stage with pieces that have a function and what is the best way for you to win given the particular rule set. And I feel like as we extend content, it just gets infinitely and infinitely deeper and deeper and deeper. Um, or at least I'm hoping that it continues to be that way. Such that the people who are interested in trying to like really min max Townstar to death can keep digging in that hole and find new cool stuff.
Grizzly says that BTB doesn't have anything to do with me, so
He's
I'm
lying.
sad now. I'm
They're
I'm gonna
just
I'm
they're
gonna I'm
just
gonna.
being shy.
I know. I'm just gonna sit here and eat Doritos now.
Somebody
Um,
lied to me when I asked that.
so we've talked about speaking of content extensions, we've talked about wine, guys, and uh, most all of the pieces are there. I believe I'm just working with Mr. Jennings next week, and there'll be a big new content dump. New NPCs, new buildings, tons of new crafts. It's going to really, I think it's going to be very, very interesting. Um, it's going to breathe new crafts into the iron mine, especially. There's going to be new things that you'll need to mine. We're bringing in sand. You'll need that, silica and stuff to make the bottles themselves. So it's going to be kind of a big new thing, and to make a great bottle of wine is going to be kind of a new cake or blue steel, I think, of the game. We're hoping so. We've got all those pieces kind of in there, and we're just going to be tuning the crap out of it next week and try to get it into a good place. And if it's not in a good place, I'm positive I can count on the Grizzlies of the Townstar world to tell me that something might be truly poorly balanced.
So one of the things, and this is something that pops up all the time. There's a lot of questions from people about, and this is in the Discord right now, about the possibility of a server that is for solo players only, a competition server for solo players.
Well, there,
Um,
yeah, no, I mean, we've talked about this, guys. I think in other AMAs, but some people might be here for the first time, and I think it's really important to bring up kind of what the future of Townstar holds. So we have created this competition game, and I love that it's a simulation and that people can build cool stuff. Um, but you know, everyone might have their own idea of exactly what the perfect competition game might look like. One might be where no NFTs are allowed, or no, it's just a grudge match between me and one other person. I wish it was on a smaller map. We've heard, like, doesn't this big mega map? Maybe we had different size maps. That might be interesting. How long should the game be? There's no way I can win because, it's a, 6 day competition, 7 day competition, and I can't be there morning, noon, and night. Maybe you'd want a 5 hour competition. So what it leaves us with, is do we try to make a million variations and just throw them at the wall and see what sticks? And we don't think that's the right strategy. We are going to host, our grand competitions in the way that we think is best. But what we want to do is extend the games that players can make their own competition servers. Um, that is going to empower you guys to make any game you want with, any rule set changes that we can kind of slide in there. um, so there's our competition side. There might be other sponsored competitions that we can surface, but we really want to empower you guys to make any server you want. I really love the idea of using a smart contract to say, here's this server, and the winner is going to get these particular game rewards, but maybe there's an entry fee, and kind of create, be able for players in a decentralized way to kind of create their own little town star business. About running the best servers with the best rewards. I think that's really kind of cool and neat. And then lastly, a lot of the feedback we've heard is that I love playing the competition game. It's cool, but I'm falling in love with my little town. I'm just starting to get it going in a good way, and then the competition ends and the world resets. Well, a lot of people really want a persistent world, and that's something else that we're working on delivering, this year. So the possibility that you could have a town that's not just a 16 by 16, but could actually be a 64 by 64 grid that lives forever. You can decorate it, you can create things there. And I think if we do it perfectly, it'll be tuned in such a way that people on a persistent board can be creating a fun little functional farm that has an output that can be converted to an NFT that's valuable to the competitive players. So, when you come into Townstar, we want it to kind of be all things farming and town related for people. We want you to come in and have a menu options, play in the championship server that we host, create your own, or play Townstar forever and have your own persistent game. And someone just wrote, making it more than a 16 by 16 would destroy my computer. Yes. We know that we have much work to do to extend the simulation and how the draw and how it's drawing to be more performant to support that. Um, I'm not sure. It's good. We have a good chunk of people here. I don't know if everyone knows or not that you can tap on your portrait in the upper left-hand corner and bring up a settings panel. You can. People were talking about translation today earlier. We do have the game ready to be translated, we think, or very close to. I think we've got a good chunk of it in Japanese as kind of a test bed for us. So Japanese players out there, if you go to that control panel, you actually can select Japanese, I believe, as well as adjust the settings, maybe like anti-aliasing, the resolution of how it's drawing shadows. And there's even kind of a fun pro mode button you can click that will put the storage capacity above all of your buildings, so you can kind of at a glance see what's full or not. So most people know that, but I think a lot of people don't.
Nice. Um, let's see here. Cyber Manning wants to know if there's ever going to be physical Townstar NFTs. I think that is something that there will be news about here fairly shortly. Will we ever get a wine bot?
Um, oh, I love the idea that he's a lush and he kind of swerves as he drives down. um, yeah, I mean, I think from a design perspective, I like the idea of there being many little bots that could be a buff to a particular area or vector of the game. So I think that's certainly a possibility.
Um,
I think a lot of people too are super interested in decoration. Things that maybe don't need to perform a function. Anytime we build anything, guys, that goes in the game that requires, a crafting, a lot of tuning behind the scenes to get in, that's a good bit of work. I would say the most work to get in is something that has completely new functions inside the game. We're still working on getting the farm bot working and having him be able to, mine box coin in the world. So that's extremely difficult, especially given the blockchain aspect of it. The next thing that's difficult is something that has a new function in the game. I think, trade bot would fall into that. Price and Jennings, would you probably say that? That's probably like a next difficulty tier down.
Yeah, it's somewhere. I mean, like neighbor delivery was pretty
Hard.
beefy. Yeah,
Yeah.
but TradeBot should be lesser than that by a good margin.
And then
I think
beneath that, yeah,
that's
go ahead,
true.
James.
Just that anything that adds in unique new features and doesn't just the salty bot, the elf bot kind of just behave in ways that there's already something in the game that does that. They just do it with a little twist to it. But anything that adds a unique behavior has challenges that go along with it.
Some stuff is just, we're scaling up, guys. I mean, we've brought on many, a couple new engineers where, so I think one of the things that pains me the most, and this goes to your comment, Amala. Yeah, Amala, 18 seconds ago was just like, hey, one of the biggest issues with teaming now is being able to pick spots next to your team. Um, one of the things that I really want to put a lot of attention on, in the next 3 to 6 months, especially because we're scaling, we'll have the firepower to do this. Is you guys have such incredible suggestions inside of Discord, and we have a lot of designs for things that are little features that aren't major, new, huge things, but God would make the game so much easier or better to play, like a friends list, a way to easily identify where your friends are on the game board and be able to locate a town next to them. Or maybe even like a powerful item that would let you reserve a spot next to you for a small period of time to let your buddy jump in there without it being grabbed by somebody else. But there's a ton of suggestions that are in Discord that are so damn good. And I've talked to Brink about this, but we're going to start doing a much better job of tracking those and getting those little features out to you guys at a greater pace. Because I actually think that is how the game gets truly awesome. We've got some big pieces behind the scenes that'll be big leaps forward, I'm hoping, but just day to day, week over week, the game could be farther along and more polished. So I think all the people we're bringing on are really going to be able to help with that.
Akili 1029 asks, would it be possible to have NFTs for the lumberyard, warehouse, and or storehouse? Let's say 40, 60, 80, 100 capacity from common to legendary. Uh, because in building a town, available space matters.
Um, so this is kind of a bigger. The answer to that is yes. We can make. That would not be difficult for us to make. Um, I think an outstanding design question for me is, where does Townstar sit long term? And I could actually see a world where, especially as we get our own private chain stood up, where we can have a lot more objects and be granting them to people and have them be changing them or upgrading, getting new objects. It's really the stuff that Price talked about earlier in the day, guys. It's going to empower us to be having players have tons more content. Right now, it is kind of a bigger ordeal, and I mean, look at gas. It's like gas costs are astronomical. So for us to be doing things on a chain, and empowering players to own a lot more items and content really is going to require that private blockchain, I think, to be stood up on our nodes that Price was mentioning earlier today. But for the future of Townstar, I really like the idea that there's tons and tons of different buildings you can own with specialized attributes and abilities. I It's hard not to imagine that down the road, and especially for the persistent game, guys, like the persistent game being stood up, think of all the options there, decorations and cool things you could have in your town that maybe no one else could. I kind of see the inevitability that Townstar is going to turn into a game that has tons and tons and tons of NFTs, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different types. I really, crypto crafting was something I was so excited about, but the price of gas costs have made it just like, I mean, how do we even craft something into something else if it's going to cost somebody?
Yeah.
I mean, what's it going to cost them price like these days when gas spikes,
Yeah, specifically the crafting with how many ingredients go into some of the recipes. It's like it's a very complicated transaction that's very expensive, unfortunately.
But it's there and it's stood up. And if we had to migrate it to a private blockchain, I can't imagine that'd be, the end of the world from a technical standpoint. It's easy for me to say those things.
No, it would. It would.
But that's I would love it if we were just freely distributing tons of different NFTs and players could craft multiple, lumber yards into something that's slightly better, and they could own that and have that too. Um, you know, so I think I think the floodgates are going to open on tons of different NFTs, specialized NFTs, upgradable NFTs, once we get the private chain stood up. A lot of decorative items too, yeah.
Ooh, upgradable NFTs. Did you guys hear that? That's going to be fun. Um, okay, so this is a request that goes out to the community. Somebody needs to do a meme of Michael holding a fire hose that just sprays NFTs.
You and your memes.
Dude, it's important. I hate to say this. I hate to say this, but memes are part of the blockchain culture, and it is interesting that you can have an entire conversation in memes, like without even using words. They are this. It's kind of like if you're talking to somebody and you say Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We've just had this whole conversation about a concept that includes a tremendous amount of complexity in like a few words. Memes do that. And basically the conversation that we need to have is Michael wants to have a fire hose of memes. See?
I think it's a little bit more like dating, Mr. Brink.
Memes are
A
like dating.
forced situation. Do this, meet this person right now. You're really good, as opposed to just organically enjoying
No.
someone's come. I think the memes would come.
The memes are coming. They're already
They'll come
coming. I have
naturally,
another Kill the Goblins
organically.
meme for you. This is it's amazing. It comes, it comes naturally. But Crypto Euclid, he said meme magic is a thing, and it absolutely is. So just throwing that out there. Let's see here. What good questions do we have?
I thought something, and this is going to be totally out there, but I do think it would be cool to show people where Townstar kind of derives from. Like, show them the Excel sheet that Townstar is built from. What do you guys think? Is that crazy?
Do
Is
it.
that out there?
Do it, dude. Do it. You can share
It's
screen.
There's no secrets in there, right? Like nothing that's sent. No, yeah.
No, I mean it's I think
everything that goes into the game.
I think our players could probably send us an Excel sheet that's mirrors this.
Almost as good.
But I think it's a fun thing, So maybe towards the end of this meeting, we have like 20 more minutes? How much more time do we have?
We got 20 minutes before I have to go be in the space station, which you're totally welcome to come for as well.
Well, let's ask the community. Let's ask the community if they kind of want to see how the Townstar source is. Like, where do we live a lot of the time? And Jennings has been living in the sheet all week. And, when we're talking about Townstar putting something in, what does it actually look like? Do people want to see that?
Let's see what they say.
What's the word on the street?
Price says we want to see it. Who the hell is that guy? What a jackwagon. Yes, they all want to see it. Hell yes, says Elut and Creamy.
Well, we'll try to make this as fast as possible, but there is an unbelievable amount of shit to cover. So I will just kind of do this quick. Jennings, feel free to jump in on this one for sure. Um,
I'm gonna
let me
mute
share.
myself, and if you still hear me eating Doritos, let me know.
Oh, gross. All right, I'm gonna try to share my screen here and tell me if this is working. Can
Can you
Planet Earth
guys
see that?
can you guys still hear me?
Yep. Well, I guess I'm not Planet Earth.
Is that streaming effectively? And I challenge the community to make a Dorito meme of Jason Brake. Take that.
It's a regular old meme worm.
Townstar is almost entirely derived from an Excel sheet. This is the world of Townstar. When you guys are in there, it is all in a massive Excel sheet, which is kind of neat to see, especially when you zoom out. Every column and row has a definition, and that definition might be forest or plains, mountain, river. So everything that you guys see in the game, um, you know, is actually being mirrored inside a massive Excel sheet. And this is just good game development, 101. You have to be data driven. Or if everything is hard coded in, then your costs skyrocket. You can't iterate effectively in the game and play and tune things. If you guys are seeing something in game and it's a problem and you want it tuned, the it's pretty quick for us to go in there and make some changes, and I'm hoping that you've seen and felt that we are responsive. But it's just kind of neat to see that even the world map itself is actually just a big old monstrous Excel sheet, and every one of these squares that you see, every cell inside the Excel sheet is referencing an object by name, which is a world object. The world object is bunches of cities, and they have specific attributes that we also can adjust. There's also, beyond just the cities that you trade to, there's also, bridge, and there's some things that we don't even use in the game that we've actually designed in and haven't implemented. Things like, rocky plains, deep ocean. We can assign specific tributes to those, and we plan to in the future to kind of open up more biomes with more specific buffs and reasons why you should play there. Um, the same thing that you saw on the world map um, is also mirrored in how we do start towns. So we need to make 4 variations of every single start town. So if we were to look at plains, for instance, plains is also built into the Excel sheet as well. And you can see here that if you're used to playing on plains, this is kind of what it looks like, right? You start with a fuel storage. There's some dirt roads, right? There's a couple wheat fields. And these, just like the world map, have name key references that appears in the objects menu itself. So here we have grass, scrub, rock, pasture, wheat field. If I go to the objects menu, we can see all of those here: bakery, cakery, chicken coop. So every object in the game also has a named reference. And you'll hear us talking in Discord about this, guys. Objects are buildings. They're something that occupies a grid. It's a wheat field, a sugarcane field, a silo. Those are all buildings. We call them objects. Units are people that walk around. Crafts are what it is you craft. And those are kind of the 3 main components of the game. So when we put a new object in, like let's say we're looking at the bakery, there's actually quite a lot that goes into it. I have it concealed here, but to put a bakery in the game, there's class, edge class. Does it have dynamic ground? What does it tile with? Does it rotate to something? You guys have noticed some buildings rotate towards the road. Is it rotatable? Proximity effects, right? This is always a big one in the game when we're tuning it, right? Does it emit something that other buildings can take advantage of? And how do things path when they're in the world regarding it? Do they walk in the front door? Or can they walk right through it? Is there a speed cost associated with it? We also have the concept of basic build uh, data and information that we can employ. Can I build upon it? So when you tap on an open space, you can put something there. There's edge requirements. Is it in store? Does it have a construction cost to it? There's gold, build cost, destroyable, and we tune all of that. Um, we have units. This is a big fatty right here, guys. I mean, how many times have we had to go through this, right? Units aren't quite doing the same thing. Well, here is where we define what do these units look like? What do they focus on first, second, and third? And we've talked about exposing this to you guys for a long time. I think it'd actually be interesting to turn it over to the community in many ways. So these are how units behave. Do they look for something to pick up? If they have it in their hands, where do they deliver it? If they don't have anything that they really need to pick up, then they start looking at things they're interested in helping. And where can they gather crafts to help that thing to graduate it towards an output pickup is ready? How many creatures what kind of units does a building have? How many of them? And what are the labor costs associated with each one of those? Lastly, we have crafts. Does the building craft? Can I select it or is it automatic? Some crafts, most of them require you to bring stuff to it, but there's some things like maybe a nuclear power plant that has craft recs met. Yes, it doesn't require anything. It'll just go automatically. Some buildings are storage, and many of them have a capacity. How many things can they have there at one single time? For units, it's kind of the same way. We've got, this concept of units that's kind of fun, and they have classes that define them. They have a walk speed, and that's mostly what happens here. Most of the attributes for units are actually on objects, actually on the buildings themselves. And then we have crafts, and boy golly gee whiz, is this where we spend most of our time, guys. What is every craft in the game? What are some of the multipliers that are applied? With a button click, I can make wheat cost a crap load more, and some of them just don't feel right. For instance, wheat right now is I add a column here to tune up the value of wheat so that new players, when they first come in, can make a lot more money off wheat and help them get started and hopefully propel them a little further. But the actual cost of wheat is more like 150 per wheat. But at 1500, that probably wouldn't make much sense. So we plus it up with 150. And that's really kind of how the game is generally built, tuned, and constructed, guys. I hope that was interesting for people, and I think we've got a lot of people who are very astute at Townstar, really going deep with exactly how the game functions and what needs to be where. And I kind of think it's interesting. What would it look like if there was kind of a community way to source some of the tuning of those things, or maybe a way to alter the data when you're building your own custom server to make something's worth a tremendous more amount of money, or deprecate crafts and buildings altogether. I think it'd be really fun to see a 2-day competition where all you can do is make wheat and flour, nothing else. So could we cross off crafts and buildings off the list when we do custom servers? I think that might be kind of interesting. Was that neat for people to see? Brink, I don't think is here anymore. I don't have my finger on the pulse of everything, but looks like people
Yep. Yeah, that's
in,
very fascinating to me and really
in
cool to see that.
Periscope.
So,
Cool, cool
Sorry
guys.
about that. I actually figured
what are
out
we
how
going
the
to do
hell to
with
mute
ice, Michael?
myself.
Some people have been asking about ice spots on the world map.
Yeah, yeah. So first off, guys, we're gonna take snow away. It's been snowy for long enough. I think next week we need to repeal snow. I also, man, snow was a big, tough design decision for me because it's fun to be seasonal and see that the world changes, but I really wanted everything in the game to communicate to you something about the nature of that particular biome and spot. So it was a little bit of a sour point for me that we just put snow in there and it was cosmetic and doesn't really affect the game. Um, but I like that we did it because I feel like it could have a use maybe later on. I think weather would be fascinating to get in the game and provide certain buffs, based on is it snowy or rainy. There's really kind of, we can take the game anywhere, guys, and it's really just the beginning for Townstar. The custom servers, the persistent world, and just the constant deepening of the biomes and the crafts and the buildings. I really think that Townstar now is cool, but Townstar a year from now, 2 years from now, is going to be insane.
Can you guys hear me now? Am I back?
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. I figured out how to actually mute myself so I could not eat Doritos in peace. But I still want them, but I was afraid. I had fear. Buddha has a question. He's asked this about everything.
And I'm sorry, I didn't totally answer the ice question, did I, Price? Ish.
I mean, you said we're going to deepen everything, and I feel like
I
that's
want to
part of that.
I want to deepen the biomes. I do, guys. You know, like right now it's forest, plains, and desert, and each kind of have some unique, buffs and attributes. Um, Ideally, I think if we got two or three or four new biomes in, um, and created a really deep discussion about where do I place my town, especially in relationship to what it is I'm growing and the biome. I think that'd be really fun. Anytime we can make the game go deeper, I think that's a lot of fun and gives you kind of new strategies to explore. So there's a concept of really snowy, icy stuff in the world right now that you'll see. I don't know if you'd be able to put a town there or not because there's not a lot of towns in Antarctica. It's kind of hard to grow anything there. And what happens is, especially when new players come on board, the game can be complex when they first begin. They could put their town there because they think it's cool and find out that nothing grows, or that that it starts with every single square being an obstacle that's really hard to remove because it's ice. Something. I think that might make it a little tricky. Um, so I think in the squares that we have now, I'd like to see those deepened and be adding some new biomes.
Maybe in the ice, you'd have to place a biodome.
That might be interesting.
Live inside, something like that.
So I was going to say here.
Did you have something specifically, Brink, that you wanted to bring up? Because someone's asking about what are we going to do about people scripting.
Yeah,
That is
talk about.
that is a very big question. I need to get this in for Buddha though because he's asked it in every AMA that we've ever had, DM'd me a couple dozen times, and mentioned it yesterday during our D&D session where he played Galanodal, the elf caster. And Galanodal, which was his randomly generated name in the D&D session, which was flippin' amazing, rode my character Thorgil around like a steed for half of the game. So because I am a loyal steed, I need to ask. He really, 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 really wants to grow cannabis. Is that a thing that could potentially happen? It's like really important to him. And if you had watched that session, you would understand why that's really important to him.
It's so I do not have a fundamental negative stance on that at all. It's, to be honest, it's probably just about looking at the other systems and things that we would want to put in the game and where that would sit from a priorities standpoint. And that's really what it's all about. We sit and look at what it is we want to get in the game and have to make some really tough choices because we kind of want it all in there. But before I would think about putting a cannabis game in, I really think we need to do something with the oceans. And I'd love to see a fishing game with trawlers and you get to send boats out to the ocean, really bring some life in out there. Wine is really cool, and now I think the oceans, man. I really think fishing would be super mega cool. So we're not opposed to THC. It's just about, what are we gonna launch that's gonna be, what are we gonna launch that's gonna kind of appease the most people? Where are things from a priority standpoint, and how do we deepen the game in a meaningful way?
Okay. Oh, sorry.
And I know adding a cannabis game would make it super deep.
Very, very deep. Now, we have 5 minutes left before I have to hop over into the space station Discord for an AMA there, which they have graciously decided to host us, which they never have, or they very rarely do. So I'm sure probably some of them are here now. So if you guys are listening, thanks. So let's go ahead and deal with that bots question if you'd like. Or scripting.
Yeah, this is a Jennings and Price. I think it's really for them to talk about more than anything else. I can tell you really quick from a design standpoint. I love the idea of player created mods, and things that make the game, interesting and custom. If it's fundamentally allowing somebody to cheat or bend the rules in a way that makes it that they can win and no one else can, that kind of sucks, and we'd want to avoid that. So that's kind of my design spiel on it. I love the idea of mods and scripts that are positive and interesting. The community might be able to extend the game in ways that we don't expect and that we can learn from. Bryce and Jennings, what are your thoughts?
Yeah,
Um,
no, go ahead, Jennings.
oh, okay. I think my view on it is the same. It's cool. It's fun to take a game that you really enjoy and kind of bend it to your own will and play it how you want to by whatever means necessary. And if you don't have tools available for you, people will make them. They'll write their own scripts. They'll write their own bots. And I think if people are forced to work around the game, then it might be destructive. It might be unfair. If people had official ways of doing that and the game embraced it and gave a way for modifications or automated behaviors, at least everyone's on a level playing field and everybody has access to those same tools. I think having something like that available, I don't know where it would fit in on the roadmap, or you know where it would actually get in on development, what those tools would even look like. But I think that would be something that could really empower players, especially people who don't have 24/7 to be able to be online and be able to be competitive, but to be able to set up their process to something that could be efficient 24/7 is that's a fun mental challenge in game as well.
And I'm guessing that when people are asking about is scripting cool, like what are we going to do about it? I'm guessing they're going to want to hear from Price and maybe Jennings about this. Like, how do we stop the evil scripters?
Well, yeah, and actually, Groove had a question in Discord about Watchdog as well, and we can talk about that for a little bit. But basically, we've got a simultaneous simulation going on the server side that reconstructs the state of your town, your currency, your everything, basically the entire state of your town. Anyway, and it's asynchronous and it's ledger based and it's actually inspired by blockchain, which is kind of cool. So it's not like running all the time. Like Townstar game can be authoritative on its own. So my point being that if you are scripting and you do things that violate the rules, you will be seen. And it will be caught. It may not be immediately, but as soon as we go back and run through the data, we'll be able to see it. But Groove's question was, there was talk of like a crowdsourcing situation where we'd post up an experimental or specifically break it instance of the game, and we're working on that now. That's coming soon. We have a big refactor underway, and then we're working towards microtransactions. And one of the things that if we're going to start to have payments happening in game with essentially real cryptocurrencies, then we need to be much more confident in our security and our anti-cheat systems. So that will be coming up. Look out for that in the next month. Maybe longer. I shouldn't say anything around dates.
You're generally very good about dates. It depends on how you get T-boned at the intersection with other things and requests.
Exactly.